My flag.
We have a new flag every
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, getting better at that. So welcome to our September 22nd Tiverton School Committee meeting. I have to switch some screens and find my agenda. All right, so I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the minutes from 9/2.
Make that motion, Sally. Second.
Okay, I'll do a roll call vote. Mrs. Papo?
Yes.
Mrs. Black? Mrs.
Yes.
Black?
Why are you
Yes.
doing a roll call vote? Oh, because we're all blind. Okay, sorry, I'm talking.
I ask myself that sometimes too. Mrs. Farnworth?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Mrs. Palish is not here. Moving to old business, item 4A, bus contract update. I don't know, Peter or Amy, who wants to take this one?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll turn it over to Amy. I think we finally have this finalized and prepared for your vote this evening. It's taken a lot of work. I want to commend Amy for all her research and negotiating with the bus company to get this to a favorable place.
Mrs. Roderick, I'm wondering if you would like to gloss the contract for the public and any members of the school committee.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear Dr. Larkin.
Oh, sorry. I was wondering if you could sort of just give us a recap of what's in the contract and where we are compared to where we were a few weeks ago for the members of the public, as well as review for the school committee.
Okay. So the main components of the bus contract have not changed. They were, as the school committee voted, I forget when, back in July, I believe it was. However, as I mentioned at the last meeting, First Student has come back to us and has asked to amend basically, or add an addendum to that contract, guaranteeing them some form of payment for the days that school is closed due to the I know that at the last meeting, the committee asked me to consult with our attorney about whether that original contract was binding and could it all be amended. And their opinion is that there is language in the contract or in the bid specs and the contract that are basically making a toss up. It could be argued either way, that it's binding or it's not binding and can be amended. And so with that, I wanted to keep the doors open with First Student, to make sure we don't come to sort of any hard stop and that the kids can continue to be transported to and from school. I've been working with their contract manager, speaking almost daily with her on various items, or on a couple of topics, but sort of going back and forth with the finer details, which brings me to Mrs. Farnworth had asked at the last meeting that I provide the school committee with an analysis of what the other school districts are doing in terms of these, what I'm going to term COVID payments or guaranteed payments for when we're closed due to COVID, which I provided to the committee as part of the package, I believe, or even a couple weeks prior. So many districts in one are being approached by their respective bus contractors, whether it's First Student, DETCO, Durham, Ocean State, to either be paid for the months that we were closed in FY20, or to guarantee some form of payment going forward if we are to close again due to COVID in FY21 and beyond. Or both, actually, in some instances. And it's all of the board as to whether they went paid for the past year or they have contract language in going forward. But most school districts that responded to my inquiry are paying something. So they either paid for the past year, anywhere from 30 to 50%, and then have negotiated some similar payment going forward, also between 30 and 50%. And that's across the board, regardless of transportation vendor. So all of them are going back to their respective school districts. When I spoke with our attorney, again, going back to whether our contract was binding or not, we could certainly argue guaranteed payments. However, we would sort of be fighting the fight for all the other communities that have already agreed to do that. And Tiverton, in the meantime, would have to go out and get another contractor while we sort of battled that out, which no one wants. So in the end, again, we are sort of held by all the transportation contractors in that we're sort of over a barrel, in that we need to agree to some form of this addendum. And the one that I would recommend, let me take a step back, please. So with that, I can understand both sides of the equation. I understand that the transportation contractors are trying to, manage their fixed costs and have some level of revenue stream if the schools were to close, because they're, not all of their costs go away when school is closed. And I understand that, like any other business. And with that, so I've worked with the contract manager at First Student to propose to the school committee that you vote on an amendment that basically has two provisions in it. One of which is changing the term of our contract from 5 years to a 3-year with 2 one-year options after that. In addition to that, I guess you can call it a guaranteed payment provision of 100% of the daily buses for the first 10 days of closure, and then 40% of that daily rate through the remainder of the closure or until the end of school. So I'm going to stop there and let folks ask questions or digest. I've sort of thrown a lot out there.
All right, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve so that we can at least open the discussion.
I'll make that motion, Sally, to accept Amy's recommendation.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. So I'm going to open the floor to questions from the committee. Mrs. Black?
Yes, I'd just like to say, one thing I was concerned about was, how people always complain that there's nobody on the buses. And then we always say, well, in case of an emergency, we have to have them. And I was wondering how that would work out in this scenario. But then I saw on page 8, they did have an emergency evacuation plan worked out. So that made me feel better.
Correct. And we can certainly amend that in the current situation if we needed to.
Right. I just wanted to make sure that was a provision, and then the other thing is, the last time we spoke about this, some of the committee members had mentioned going to the state. And I talked to Representative Edwards today, and he said that if we want him to look into anything, to please send him information. Of course, we have to send him all the facts, and the fact that we would like him to look into it, if we would. I'm just letting you all know that, but we have to do a formal thing and send it to him. Okay, thank you. And thank you for all your hard work, Amy, with that.
My pleasure.
Mrs. Pava?
I have one question. Amy?
Yes.
8.5 COVID-19 costs, section 8 of the contract is amended to include the following new section 8.5. In the last sentence of that paragraph, they outline the costs are outlined, and it says disinfecting supply and labor. So labor, I'm going to assume that we would still have to pay for the drivers and the monitors. Am I right and correct in that?
That is for the disinfecting, and actually they have contracted with a company to come in and disinfect the buses in their entirety at the end of every day, and they are forwarding that cost onto us at $2.03 per bus per day. That's what that labor refers to, not that we have to continue to pay the drivers and the aides.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That's all I have.
Okay, Mrs. Farnworth?
Amy, thank you for putting more research into this.
You're welcome.
Has First Student indicated that they will agree to what you have laid out?
They have, yes.
If we
I
ratify
spoke,
it?
I spoke with the contract manager on Monday.
Okay.
Yes,
You know,
my knowledge.
I'm going to go ahead and give you my approval, mainly because they have agreed to a shorter term. That was probably one of my biggest concerns. And this 40%, while I won't say I like it, I will, I will go along with it because we do need to put this to rest, at least for now. It gives us time to perhaps raise this as a bigger issue at the state level. I think, for a state the size of Rhode Island to have so much fluctuation between cities and towns over this transportation and for all intents and purposes, at least for our section of the state, only having 2 providers available, it makes it very difficult. I did take a look. First Student, and this is just for everyone's benefit. First Student, and my comments are certainly not aimed at anyone who locally works for the bus company. But First Student is owned by a company in Scotland who is listed on the London Stock Exchange. It is most definitely a for-profit enterprise.
Correct.
It is.
And during this COVID emergency, as much as they feel they should be reimbursed for work they're not doing because they need to cover their fixed cost, we have to remember all of the businesses that are struggling in this time. Restaurants, retail, I can go on and on and on. So many people are struggling and have no way of forcing their customers to pay their fixed costs while they're forced to shut down. So, it's still, I think, an issue that needs to be taken up more at the state level. We here in Tiverton are virtually powerless in this situation, but, it's still not a good thing. And I Mrs. Black, I think definitely we need our state legislators, all of them, to pay attention to this on behalf of all the citizens of Rhode Island.
That's right. Thank you.
That's all I have.
Okay, Amy, I just have sort of a quick question, actually.
Sure.
I am looking, the numbers you just gave us, I did not see on the addendum that I had from the email of September 21st. Do we have that language, or that's just what you've drafted with them? So I have the addendum dated 9/8.
Correct. I can, it's just a matter of changing the date and the terms to the 100% for 10 days and 40%. I had just forwarded you the one that was in place. So I can certainly.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure I wasn't missing something. So
you were not. That was the original one where they had recommended 50%. Okay. And I can certainly, I was waiting to see what the committee was going to do this evening. I can certainly forward that to you.
Okay. If those are so again, it's 100% for the first 10 days and then 40% afterwards.
Correct.
Okay. That does seem to be a better exposure, because I believe if there's a shutdown, it'll be longer than 10 days.
Correct.
Okay. So there's a motion. If there's any other questions from the school committee, are there any questions from the public, Ms. Delcourt?
Not at this time, Dr. Larkin.
Any questions from our administrators? All right, Amy, thank you very much for your hard work. I'm going to ask for a vote. Mrs. Black?
Yes.
Mrs. Pavo?
Yes.
Mrs. Farnworth?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So 4-0, the motion passes. Again, thank you very much, Amy.
And Dr. Larkin?
Yes.
Also, could we send a notice up to the representatives and senators about this issue now that we're on this is on our agenda tonight to look into this for us? Do we want to do that?
Mrs. Black, I had, oops, excuse me.
Yeah, I was just gonna, go ahead. Diane. I was just gonna
meeting
mention
that we
what I
would
thought
be-
you were doing a mention.
Mhm. We were going to put together a resolution to send up.
Good, that's good.
That will be in the coming months. We just needed to sign this.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. That'll be great.
We should really be working through RIASC and the Superintendent's Association as well, not to mention the League of Towns and Cities and Towns.
Absolutely.
Yeah, everybody, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That's good. Thank you.
it's crazy. All right, so we're up to item 4B, reopening plan update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And we're going to start this update with a video that Ms. Delcourt puts together. And, you know, by no small means, I mean, she makes the superintendent look really good, and that is not easy. So I want to commend her for her great work. And we're going to start with a quick video.
Hello, parents of Tiverton Community. Peter Sanchione, Superintendent of School, speaking to you after the first week of school here in Tiverton. I want to thank you so much for your cooperation and your dedication, sending your children to school or having them participate in distance learning. I want to talk to you about some of the things we're experiencing here today and how we can improve upon that. You may have seen that we had 5 probable cases in the Tiverton Public Schools this past week. Now, probable does not mean positive, and we're fortunate that all the results came back as negative. However, a probable case is defined as one of the following: a cough, shortness of breath, a loss of taste or a loss of smell, or a fever. If you send your child to school with any one of those symptoms, we're sending them home. But more importantly, we're sending home a letter to every student in that school and every family in that school, letting them know that's a probable case, which causes a lot of tension and anxiety at this time. So I'm asking parents, please, if your child is experiencing one of those symptoms, please do not send them to school. There's a second definition of a probable case that I need you to pay attention to and understand, and that is defined by 2 of the following. If a child has chills, a muscle ache, a headache, a sore throat, fatigue, congestion, nausea, diarrhea, or a stomach ache. If your child is experiencing 2 or more of those symptoms, we're sending them home. That is a probable case. And again, it triggers us to have to send a letter to every family alerting them about a probable cause or a probable case. So again, we're going to ask you parents to cooperate with us and make sure that you understand what triggers a probable case and not to send your child if they are experiencing those symptoms.
And one of the key safety measures that we want to reiterate is mask wearing. Our students have been doing a great job, and so we just remind all of our students, if you're coming into school, you got to bring that mask, make sure it's snug up against the face. Another point is the health screener form. We're shooting for 100% participation rate for all students coming into our building. We're close to that, but we're not quite there yet. So just a reminder, if you're in high school, 7 a.m., have that health screener form. If you're in middle school, also 7 a.m. And if you're in grades K to 4, have that health screener form completed by 8 a.m. Thank you.
District-wide, I know that many of you have contacted us with regards to technology concerns. I'm happy to inform you that beginning next week, we will have established a Zoom room for students and family members who are having technology issues throughout the day. Our technology director, Dave Carnevale, will be in touch next week to let you know when we will begin.
So finishing up our first week of school, we're moving into the second week of school starting on September 21st through September 25th. During that week, if your child is in the hybrid model, we'll be welcoming in students with the last name beginning with M through Z. That will be their first week in school in in-person instruction. Now, I know it's everyone's goal, and it's shared here by all the members of the Tiverton Public Schools community, that we'd like to have all of our students back in school. And we're certainly working toward that goal. But there's key factors that are going to help us make that decision. First is the parents continue to fill out that screening form every morning, that we're not having students sent to school with probable cases, and most importantly, that we do not have a positive case. At this point, we do not have a positive case, and we hope to stay that way. If we can achieve those goals, we will start welcoming back more grades as we build up to a full K-12, welcoming back all of our students in grades K through 12. Also want to remind parents that right now, until the end of December, we are providing free breakfast and lunch for all students. And I want to be clear on that, all students. You don't have to qualify, you just have to be in school. So if you're getting up in the morning, you don't have any food in the home, or you don't have time to prepare lunch or breakfast for your child, send them to school, because we will provide them with a free breakfast or lunch. And again, we want to make sure that all our students are receiving the correct nutrition on a daily basis. So remember, parents at Tiverton, when you come into our schools, masks are always on. We practice social distancing.
And reopening.
Is everyone's responsibility.
All right, so my congratulations to Julie Delcourt. She can really make us look good, and there's some important information in there, and I want to sort of summarize it now with some slides here and talk about really our first 7 days of school that have been very successful for us. So some of the positives we have going for us right now that's helping us make good decisions is our transportation's working. Every one of our buses has less than 35 students on that. Our students are wearing masks on the buses. We're not having any issues there. And as you heard Amy speak about, the bus companies doing a great job disinfecting the buses after all their runs and between all their runs. You heard me speak in the video about the breakfast and lunch being served. Just want to remind families that that is free. All our logistics are coming together. We got plenty of PPE in all of our schools. Have our air purifiers, and most of the small classrooms are still waiting for a small shipment to come in, but our principals have done a great job on rescheduling staff that we use those rooms into other areas. Our ventilation systems are working exceedingly well. Again, it's been a great first 7 days of school. We're providing instruction that's synchronous, which means both in person and the students at our home, they're receiving live instruction from our staff. And we know that was a new task for our teachers to go through last week. And as we worked into this week, we think it's becoming a little less taxing because now the students at our home have that relationship with the student, have a little more training on technology. But as you heard me say in the video, again, it's our goal to continue to work towards getting in 100% attendance. Want to commend parents for filling out the screening form every morning. We're up around 90%. That last 10% we need to get there, though. That's critical information. And every parent who does not fill it out means that a principal or a nurse has to find your son or daughter first thing in the morning and screen them, which uses up a lot of valuable time. So again, people watching this the school committee meeting this evening, again, please fill out that screening form as soon as you get up in the morning. Again, one of the most positive things we have going for us is that we have no confirmed cases, and that's critical. Again, you heard us talk about probable cases in the video. I think I used the number 5. We're up to 11 now. Over the last couple of days, we picked up some more. And again, if you're probable, you have to be tested. And once you're tested, you share the results with us. And again, all those probable cases have come back as negative. And what's making our system work so well right now is I feel like we really delivered some high quality, timely, specific professional development for our teachers. And we give you 3 examples here. Over the days before school started, we did a lot of training on using Google and Google Meet, which is the key foundation of providing distance learning in the Tiverton Public Schools. We had a great training on recognizing and responding to students' experience at adverse childhood experiences and trauma from being home. And we certainly did a lot of training on safety protocols and using our PPE equipment. Continuing on with what's working well. Again, we've issued a Chromebook now to every student in the Tiverton Public Schools. So we're 1-to-1, 5 through 12. That's a basis of our instruction there. But even K4 now, all those students have a Chromebook to work on their assignments and to work with their teachers if they're in distance learning or if we ever need to go there. We're provided the internet to all families who've needed it. Again, our cleaning schedules during the day are working exceedingly well. I can't commend our custodians enough for making sure every bathroom is cleaned a minimum of 4 times a day, that all our high touch areas are disinfected throughout the day. We've been doing temperature checks. Our administration and our nurses are doing that, both random and scheduled. And I feel like our communication has been timely and responsive. If we have those probable cases, our principals are doing an amazing job getting that information out there. We're answering a lot of questions from our families regarding that. And certainly we're prepared to communicate if we ever should have a positive case, which we hope we don't. Again, I wanted to review this. It was part of the video, but again, it's so critical for everyone to understand this. And there's two definitions of probable. The first is one of these symptoms. So cough, shortness of breath, loss of taste, loss of smell. If you have one of those symptoms, you're considered probable. You go home if you're in school, you have to be tested. You cannot come back until that test is negative. And so again, we want to make sure people understand that, not to send a child to school who has one of those symptoms. On this slide here, it's again, want to be repetitive and remind families 2 of these symptoms equals probable. So again, you can see the list there. I won't read it to everybody. But if you send a student to school with 2 of those symptoms, we send them home. You have to have them tested. They can't come back until we see a negative test. But here's the key factor. So there's probable, and I've defined probable now as 1 symptom on the first slide, 2 symptoms here. If a student has 1 symptom, they're sent home. So there's a difference between probable and being symptomatic. And we're following the Rhode Island Department of Health playbook. And the playbook requires us, if a student even has 1 symptom, we're sending them home. Now, 1 symptom doesn't require a test, but it does require that the student overcome that symptom before they come back to school. So I want to make that distinction for our families, make sure everyone understands that 1 symptom means we're calling you, they're going home. And it's important to mention though, because our educational system now is fluid, if your child goes home, they should still be participating in their education. They can still log into every lesson through Google Meet, watch the class, get all the information, hear the instruction, and participate. So we want students to do that too, unless obviously they're very sick and they cannot participate. And so some areas where we could use a little support with our parents. Again, students are doing a great job wearing the mask, but at the high school, as high school kids can sometimes be challenging. Just want to remind, if you have a student in the high school, it's really important to keep that mask on and snug up against your nose and wearing that at all times. Again, keep on filling out the morning screening form. We need to get to 100%. We hover around 90. Again, it's worth me saying that if you don't fill it out, someone has to find your son or daughter, and that's just valuable time that could be used for other things. Again, for that form, 7 o'clock for the high school, middle school, 8 o'clock for our elementary students. And again, I'm going to close this by saying one of the key points is do not send your children to school if they are experiencing even 1 of the symptoms. So people that keep asking, what's the next step? When are we going to see more students coming back to school? So we've had 7 great days. We've had 7 days with some probable cases, but all of our systems are working. Our safety protocols are working. Our disinfectant, our cleanliness is working. Our transportation is working. Our food service is working. Our passing is working. You know, all the things that we worked so hard this summer to put in place are working. And I commend the principals for such great work in managing their schools. So we're analyzing now, and our next step is to welcome back K through 4 in full, grade 8 and grade 12. And the big question is when. So we're going to evaluate that as the rest of this week goes on. And if we can maintain the statistics that I've spoken about, and the key factor being no positive cases, we'll consider operationalizing this next Monday. So that's where we are right now. And we'll break down the PowerPoint and answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Sanchioni. And again, thanks to all of the teachers and the staff and the principals and everybody who's made reopening really a success. And I say that quite deliberately, that it is a success. I think the background that we don't understand maybe, or we're so focused on getting things done and making sure everything is taken care of is we don't understand that we aren't failing at something that we could very easily fail at. And that's kind of hard thing to remember sometimes, but we're really succeeding, I would say, phenomenally. And I think it's all to the hard work of all the, again, the teachers, the staff, our administrators, the leadership of our superintendent, and of course, all our teachers and the students putting in the hard work, although there's 3 who I'm wondering about. They have, but again, I certainly do have that perspective of both a parent and a school committee member of sort of seeing it from both ends. And I'm surprised that as long as the child's attitude is right, it works quite well. If you're listening to me, think about that. I'm gonna just gloss one thing. You know, something that struck me was calling kids who had some of the symptoms or had, you know, one of the kind of hot button symptoms and then 2 of the less urgent symptoms. Calling that probable seemed to be a little bit of a misnomer to me, because it doesn't mean that I think we say, oh, you know, you must have COVID. You know, probable is greater than greater than 50% likelihood that something is true. That is not true, actually. None of those symptoms really actually is very specific for COVID-19, with the possible exception of the loss of smell or taste. If you experience that, that is actually relatively specific, especially if it's associated with any other symptoms. So just to sort of reassure our parents and everyone else that probable, I think they're using that word because that triggers the test to try and see if there's something behind the symptom. It's not that we are automatically saying, well, this is, you know, most likely that it is COVID-19. So I'm going to open the floor to the rest of the committee since I've entered or monopolized the time. Mrs. Farnworth, you want to go first?
Sure, thank you. And thank you for your remarks. And I would also like to commend Dr. Sanquioni, your administration, and most importantly, the teachers who are now full in on the front lines of all of this for, you know, the great job that I hear that they're doing throughout a very challenging situation. My questions, the first are around technology. And so, Mr. Carnevale, you ready? How's the Wi-Fi holding up in the schools? Are we getting consistent Wi-Fi signals and any issues there at all?
So everything has been running relatively smoothly. We did have a hiccup for about 10 minutes today, where one of our servers decided it was a good time to reboot itself, but that has been remedied. So we did see about a 10-minute hiccup today, but that was really the first one inside the schools that we really saw. So that's actually a really good positive for us. All the updates that we've done and the recent update that was done over the summer to Tiverton Middle School has drastically helped the bandwidth and capabilities that we have.
Okay, and I think, you know, to your point, you know, we need to make sure that our equipment is right on during these times, and certainly bring it up if there's any equipment that you feel that is about to fail, you know, bring it right to Dr. Sanquioni, and let's talk about what we need to do to make sure that our students are served. On the thank you for going through the health screening form. I think you went through that pretty well. I don't have any other questions. And kudos to Julie for, I can only imagine how many takes that video took. Would have taken about 51, really. I'm impressed.
She's got some tough actors to work with, let me tell
These
you.
are pros. They're pros. They're pros.
Mrs. Craven, you mentioned a Zoom room. Where is that room located, and is it for the entire district?
Yeah, ultimately, that's the goal. So in Mr. Carnevale's office, he has a Zoom room for teachers where they can, during the school day, you know, connect to him and ask him questions. And this is along the same idea where he would have another screen in his office where parents and students who are distance learning students can connect to him during the school day and ask questions.
Okay, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And turning to the future, Dr. Sanquioni, when would, if you were so inclined, well, when will you be making an announcement regarding next week?
Thursday. We have a principals meeting Thursday at 3 o'clock. And at that point, we're going to assess the data. I've asked all the principals to check in with their staff for the remainder of this week to get some feedback from staff on what that proposal is. And we'll get together and make a good decision. I feel like we need to get it out Thursday night so parents have Friday and the weekend, obviously, to make any adjustments they need to do.
Okay, yeah, that was my angle, is the parents, I'm sure, are going to be waiting with bated breath to hear the results of that meeting.
All right, so don't send your kids with any symptoms.
Yes,
Help
yeah,
us make this decision.
that's right.
Peter, are there metrics, if I could just interrupt for a second, are there metrics that RIDE or DOH is giving us to follow with making that decision?
It's the same dashboard we put out. You've seen those ones with the 4 green lights. So it's not specific to the schools, it's specific overall. And again, those lights are all green for Tiverton and for our preparedness.
Great, thank you.
And I only have one more question on the buses. So as you bring in more children to the schools, do we have the bus capacity to go ultimately full in at this point?
It's an unknown. We have the capacity to go to the stage that I articulated. So all in K4, 5-8, 9-12, and then hybrid for those other grades. But I spoke to Sherry Del Toro today, and at that point, we are at capacity on several of our buses. And so before we make the step to go all in, we're going to have to do some communicating with parents and buses and see if they can step up and help us out here a little bit. A number of people have, it's over 400 families that used to use the bus last year are no longer using it, but we are going to need some more assistance there if we truly want to be in all in K-12. As long as the bus is at 35, we have that restriction.
Okay, thank you.
Peter, I thought we had about 300 students that were full distance. Is that number changed at all? Gone up or down?
I think that's about the same, but Jewel, I know you.
Yeah, it fluctuates. I know the weekly numbers, the week 2 number for students total in now is right around 500 and something. So it does fluctuate a lot. A lot of people have decided to come back in since the week started.
Okay.
I can get you that exact number.
I was just curious. I suspected that might be the trend, and I see Mrs. Wardell and Mrs. Craven nodding their heads. So, okay. All right. Sorry, Mrs. Black.
Yes, like everyone else, I'd like to thank all the staff and the administrators, and also I'd like to thank the parents and the caregivers for cooperating with us and being so positive, because that's what we need, is sending the children in with a positive spirit. I think that's really good, and that's what I've been seeing. So thank you very much. The other thing I was wondering is if we know if the bus will, who makes that decision on how many students can be on the bus? Is that the Department of Health?
Yes, that's the Department of Health.
And do you think you see any movement with that at any
No.
time?
They already had movement. You may recall over the summer, it was 23. And
Yeah.
moved to 35, but I don't see any movement above 35 until probably there's a solution to COVID.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I would agree. Mrs. Pavo?
Most, I have no questions.
Okay. I have one last one. So there's free lunch and breakfast for the students, regardless of any other issue. But there are some kids that are in distance learning that can pick up. Is there a way, I'm not sure exactly what's even in the lunch and breakfast, but they could pick up for an entire week if that's more convenient to them, or is that even feasible? No one wants to answer that question, I bet.
It's probably an unknown. I mean, right now there's a pickup every day at the middle school between 9 and 9:30. I know we have anywhere between 35 and 50 families availing themselves to that on a daily basis. You know, there are perishables. I know in the lunches, there's sandwich meat and yogurt and milk and things of that nature. So, you know, picking up for a week, we could certainly talk to our people about that and see if it's a possibility.
Okay. I don't know if they've got any flexibility in what they actually put in them, things that might be more durable. I don't know. I'm just sort of throwing it out there at communication from one family anyway. Okay. Thank you.
Dr. Larkin, I do know that the number of lunches, the number of meals you serve at any one time, there is some oversight from the USDA on that. We're operating under the Summer Food Service Program. But I can certainly work with Chartwells to find out if we can do more than what we're doing. I know over the summer, we would give them lunches for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Whether we can do it for longer periods than that, I can certainly find out.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if it's just stuff that would last longer, I mean, it's something, not necessarily what maybe. All right. Any questions from the public, Mrs. Julie?
Not at this time, Dr. Larkin.
Okay. And any questions from any of our administrators? Everybody looks good. All right. Well, again, thank you, Peter, and to this village of Tiverton that is raising many children and some adults. All right. We are up to item 4C, FY20 budget. Close and update. Dr. Sanquioni.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to turn the FY20 budget over to Amy, who's in the process of closing that out.
So we have done everything that we need to do here in central administration to close out. We are waiting on some journal entries from the region and a few others, and it's dependent on their timing, but it's to close and provide reports on that. We've done everything that we're aware of. We've done accruals, reversals, encumbrances, all of that. So.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to open up to questions. Mrs. Pava?
I have nothing. One question, Amy, do you have any kind of a date from the region on when they would provide you with what you needed?
Actually, it arrived this morning. So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Maybe next meeting or the meeting after.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mrs. Black?
And so then we'll get a copy of that when it's available, right? For my archives?
Yep,
Okay,
where we ended up for 20,
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And Mrs. Farnworth?
Most of my questions were already answered, thank you. The audit, have you begun that engagement?
We have not been notified that when that's going to start. I know that it went out to bid and it was awarded again to Haig Sahadi. I have not received any requests yet. My understanding is that preliminary fieldwork would start sometime in October based on the proposal, but I can certainly find out from Denise at the town.
Okay, I would definitely recommend you staying in touch with her at this time of year in particular.
No, I spoke with her today actually on a couple of matters.
All right, good. That's all I had.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the public, Ms. Delcourt?
Not at this time, Dr. Larkin.
Okay, it's been a very satisfying school committee. All right. Any questions from the administration? Okay. Moving like a freight train. All right, item 4D, FY21 budget update.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to start this one off and call your attention to a document that was in your packet. And it's just striking, and I think it's worthwhile for the committee to recognize this and for the community to recognize this, that, you know, the FY21 budget is a tough budget for us this year, and for a number of factors and some explainable. But there are 24.2 people who were here last year who are no longer with us. And in a district this size, that has a significant impact, and there's a significant loss of services. So I provided you the list of people, positions that were eliminated to balance our budget. And I just don't want that to be lost. I want the community to understand that. I want the budget committee to understand this. Obviously, the school committee deeply understands it, but it's a reality of this year's budget, and it's a reality that has to move forward with us as we begin the planning for the FY22 budget. So that's one part of the update. The other part is we need to recast the budget. And what that means is we just take all the people who are in the original budget. As you know, we've had a lot of fluctuations in staffing. So we've got to take out the old members, put in the new members, recalculate the salaries. You know, salaries are 78% of our budget. Amy will add in the bus contract, any new changes on the expense side, and then reproduce that budget and give you a copy of it. So we're in the process of doing that now. Should be a couple more weeks and we'll get that out to you, and then you'll be able to see it in its actual state.
Okay. Anything else about the FY21?
So the one thing I'd like to say, this is in conjunction with Mrs. Farnsworth's question about technology and making sure that the technology department has what it needs to make sure we're servicing the students. I can tell you that, even though we have tight budgets, and when it comes to providing resources for the teachers or for the kids, in particular technology, books and things like that, David and I are working very closely, and if there's any way to provide something that we didn't originally have, we're working really hard to do that to make sure. So, the focus is to deliver the quality education that Dr. Sanquioni speaks about, and in my small role is to, provide the financial resources to do that. So I think we're all working fairly closely, with the other principals as well, to make sure that that happens and people have those resources. So I just wanted to make sure that the committee knew that it's so far, at least from my experience sitting in the central office behind the number crunching, everyone, all the administrators and principals have been great about focusing where our financial resources should go.
Great, thank you. I'm going to open it up to questions from the committee. Mrs. Farnworth?
No, Amy, thank you so much for expounding on that. It's important for us to know that, even with the limited resources we have, we're going to make sure that, our priorities are in order, and that, we're going to do our very best to provide the highest level of education that we can in this circumstance, as you always do. And if think it'll be possible for our next meeting to have more of that detailed budget information.
Okay.
I saw your eyes roll and your lips move.
Okay.
She's on mute.
Okay. No, I had to think that it was in 2 weeks. That was a thought. That wasn't an eye roll. So yes, in 2 weeks, we can have that for you.
Is our next meeting in 2 weeks?
I'm presuming it is.
Okay.
I didn't check the calendar.
Actually, I think it's 3.
It'll be in 3, yeah, because
Yeah.
it's a
That gives you a little breathing room.
funny month.
Okay, 3 weeks. So at our next meeting, yes, whenever that might be.
Thank you.
Okay. Yep. When my eyes roll, they are rolling. I learned it from my children. All right. This is Black.
Yes, so this has been a fluid process, as you all know. We went to the budget committee with 4, and then it was voted for 2. And then other motions were made to give us a little, and that was put down. And we all know we got $1 more. So let's look at that number, 24.2 people. Now, through the years, we've always been very careful. Everybody's always complaining because we have loss of kids and we don't address that. Well, between 2007 and 2012, this is what happened. 2007, we had 200 teachers, and in 2012, we had 179. And so we have addressed that through the years, through attrition or whatever. So we've never been, and our administration is very well balanced too. In our budgets, that's very important to talk about. But this number you see here, this 24.2, is not because we don't need these positions or these people. We voted for these people through the years because it came to us up through teachers, principals, and administration that we needed these people to make our district fabulous, okay? And that's what we all want. So at this point, I don't even know how to do this. I guess I have to vote to reconsider although we never really voted, it was up and down. And one list came and I had the school resource officer off the list. So I thought he was back on. Then just recently, maybe yesterday, another list came and the position was taken off again. And I just want to remind everyone that during the budget process, the question was asked and answered, are you going to have a school resource officer? And the answer at that point was yes. So in the docket, it says, no, school department offsets the cost of the resource officer. So we came to that. We talked about this before. First, we got a grant, then it dried up. Then the town and the school sat together and decided it was too important. So we'd each contribute. We gave our word, that's all we have, that we'd contribute. So I'm going to make a motion to put back that $60,000. That's the number I talked to Mrs. Rodericks about that would cost our side, because the town, you'll look in the budget and you'll see what it gives. 59,814 or 841. Last year was 5750, but we know that goes up. So anyway, my motion is to reconsider, because what astounded me is when I looked at the slide tonight, it said safety first. And that's what we're all about, and we always have been. But as we go through this COVID-19, let's not forget about other measures of safety that this school department holds dear, and about the Alice program that we've worked so hard on to make sure the kids and the staff was safe, and all the staff was trained. It took years. Dr. Larkin brought that to us years ago, and it took us years, and he's or she, that school resource officer, is the center of that whole program throughout the district. So I think, and now don't forget, the rules have changed. After Columbine, there were no backpacks, remember? Now there's no lockers. Think about it. Now we're going to be outside, which I love. I think we should be outside. We need the presence of a school resource officer. They're specially trained. They're almost like the reimagining of everyone's talking about of the police. That's who these people are, with the way they deal with parents and children and everything else. They're amazing, amazing people. Now the state, don't forget, all got together finally, just like us all building our schools, and then everybody else comes along. The state, when we all sat together and decided we needed them, all the other districts jumped on board, and the state said, we'll pay for half. That's how important this is. They said only if they're new. That makes no sense. So again, we have to work with our legislator. That's an easy fix. It's only a clause in the thing, and then they'll pay half. So if the state pays half, and then the town and the schools only have to pay the other half, I think that'll be really good. But I'm making that motion tonight to put that money back in, because safety is first, and that's so important. You know, I got to say one more thing. When I was watching the Middletown and they were voting on their budget, the school budget, and they cut everything. And you know what they did? They put one thing back in, and that was the substance counselor. And this is the town paid. And they said, if we save one life, that's what they said. They took that whole thing out of the school budget and supported it. So I think these are the times when we have to say safety first and mean it everywhere. Thank you very much.
So Mrs. Black, just to clarify, you've made a motion. Can you frame it in just a couple seconds?
Yes, I'm making a motion to reinstate the school resource officer, our portion of it at $60,000, and then the town pays the other portion, and it's in the budget. It's in the docket. It doesn't say our amount. It just says we're going to offset it. Okay. I'm making the motion for $60,000 to pay for our portion of the school resource officer.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Discussion. Mrs. Pava?
No, I have nothing. I think what Mrs. Black said is clear. I always felt that once that position came to us, it would not ever be removed. I guess I was wrong. Budget times change, but I would like to reconsider and have that position reinstated.
Okay. Mrs. Farnworth?
Dr. Sanquioni, do we have a school resource officer on board right now?
We do. Mr. Jake Raposa. He's met with all the principals and he's been put on board. He's showing up every day. Yep.
Have you made a commitment to the town to pay the $60,000?
We haven't spoken to the town about that. We
Okay.
had, you had the original vote. When we first reduced our budget, that position was removed. I communicated that to the town administrator, and that's the last status check I've had with them.
Thank you. On February 24th, when you originally put your budget in, the SRO position was cut. This committee reviewed it. On February 22nd, 27th, Dr. Larkin, you, Dr. Sanquioni, and Ms. Roderick went to the budget committee to request our budget at the 4% level. On March 11th, this school committee voted to approve the budget, the original budget request, without the SRO. On August 10th, at the Tiverton Budget Committee, the question came up. This committee never approved the SRO as far as funding it for this year. We have eliminated 20+ teachers. Our town has offered to give us that SRO. We don't have a contract with the town to pay for the SRO. We are in a dire position this year. Our fund balance is nearly gone. So who, Mrs. Black, would you like us to lay off now to pay for this SRO?
No one.
And so you're suggesting that we dig into our fund balance further? I mean, where are we going to cut?
I understand, Diane. I understand what you're saying, but are you not remembering the night when the budget committee asked?
I remember that, and I asked.
And the answer was no. And then it's on the docket. If you look at the docket, if you want to look at it on page 11, okay?
Ms. Black, on August 10th, the only mention of this SRO was Chairman Edwards of the Budget Committee saying that he spoke, his first phone call of the day was to Dr. Larkin. And that Dr. Larkin said the schools have no intention of unfunding the SRO, and the Budget Committee ran with that. Dr. Larkin, I asked you at one point, did you tell Chairman Edwards that we were going to fund the SRO, considering the fact that we had voted on a budget that we had not funded it?
You're asking me a question?
Yes.
Okay. So the answer is no. I made no such representation to Mr. Edwards. I expressed my opinion, which was I thought the position was very important. Even if I had made such a commitment to him, it would have no way been binding on this committee. So the vote is what's binding.
Thank you. And I believe that the SRO is an important position, but I don't believe the SRO is more important than a teacher at Pecasset or a teacher at the middle school. I don't believe the SRO is more important than our custodians. At this point this year, we are in a very tight situation. Our town gave us no increased funding. We have a drastically increased bus contract. We are being asked to shoulder the burden of all of the sacrifice in this town. And I'm going to ask that we not vote to give away an additional $60,000 just because the budget committee put it on their docket. Thank you.
Black? I'm sorry, Sally, did you want to say something else?
Oh, no. I understand how Mrs. Farnworth feels. And as I said, we're not in favor of any of the positions, but they've been going in and out. They've been putting back in, and we ask, and they say, we didn't know who was coming back in. That's not up to us to organize who belongs there. It's up to the administration. And they did go through all that, but it's not to say that all those positions, some of them were put back, some of them were taken out. It's a fluid thing. That's what I'm saying. And when I saw it, I saw the list with the SRO not on it. I said, oh, okay, good. That they worked that in. That's good. And the truant officer. And then the last minute it came back on. That's all I'm saying. It's been a fluid process, and it's a horrible process. And I can't go in on Saturday and vote for that $1 budget either. But the only problem is we can't vote no. You see, so we're in a situation now. We can't support this budget that's doing this to our school district. And as Dr. Sanchioni said, let's start our budget next year with all these things that we're going to have to say. 24 people, that's not manageable. But in my opinion, because of the hours program and everything else that we've worked so hard on, he or she has to be there to run that if anything happens. No one else knows how. So, I mean, I don't want to cut anyone. Not one of these people. Did we want to cut? Did we say, Dr. Sanchioni, I don't think we need this person or that person, or we need more custodians, we need more nurses, we need these people are doing such an amazing job. But I was one of the people that gave my word to this town. I gave my word that we would support this, we would share this, and our word is all we have. And it's in the docket. I went today to pick it up to see how it was phrased, and it says we'll offset it again. So that's, I'm just asking for a motion. That's all. Vote for it or against it. Of course, that's your right. And I understand totally how you feel, Diane. Thank you.
So Sally, when you're saying it's in the docket.
Yes, it is. If you get the docket, if you pick it up or look at it online, it says bottom. No, it always says this. The school is also, and they have their portion that they're going to pay the $844. Then it says no, school department offsets cost of resource officer. That's the note at the bottom of the whole police line, how it would be. That's on page 11. So to pay for that officer, they're expecting us to chip in like we always have in the past years. That's all,
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. And I didn't know the number. So I called Mrs. Roderick to ask her a number to say, because I didn't even know what to say. And she said to say 60. So that's the only reason I'm saying that number.
Got it. So, I think it's important to, this seems like a good time to point it out, that their having placed it on the docket is not on the basis of our having made representations to them that we would actually restore that funding. Dr. Sanchioni, any thoughts? Feel free to remain silent.
Sorry about that. It's a pro and con list, right? You can't discount the value add of the position, but you can't discount the value add of every position on that list. And then you have to deal with the reality of the budget. And so yeah, this is, I'm going to put this one back on your plate to make the decision.
Thank you. So this is a Gordian knot, and none of us is Alexander the Great. So there are a couple things to realize. One is that we did not have a school resource officer in 2012. We instituted it after Sandy Hook, and I was certainly very much in favor of that. Sandy Hook happened about a month after I started on the committee. So it's one of the things, although the data's mixed actually. There is some that supports it or that seems to suggest that it's very helpful in reducing lots of bad things that might happen in schools. And then some of it seems to be a little bit more equivocal that can't really show a direct cause and effect or benefit. And if any of our administrators has any more insight into this, feel free to chime in. So that's one thing. I don't think anyone would question the importance of the position. And we certainly do want to keep it. On the other hand, as Dr. Sanchioni has pointed out, as we've all sort of discussed, we have cut 22 positions. I don't know where we would find the money for this position. And I think we do have to remain consistent with what we set out as saying, which is that we could not fund it this year. The third part of the Gordian knot, if that doesn't completely destroy my metaphor, is that the police contract is written in such a way with their union that the position has to exist regardless of what the schools do. I don't know how that actually plays out then. If that means that the position exists, but the chief can put the officer, on traffic duty or, investigating something unrelated to the schools, or, what happens, I'm not sure. Certainly, if as time goes on and let's just say Congress actually gets its act together, and let's just say we get a different president and we have funding to local schools and governments, I would certainly be strongly advocating that we fund that position as well as many other things. But I don't think that we can do it now. I think we have to, again, it has been fluid, it has changed, and we've had to make decisions when we had incomplete information. We had to make decisions when we didn't know that the pandemic would have the effect it would, both on the schools, on the town, on the revenue streams for, all of our budgets. But we had to make those decisions. And I don't think that we can find money for this position when we have, math specialists, reading specialists, special educators, special ed aides. We are not funding, a principal's position, all kinds of things. So with that said, I'm going to open up the floor to any of our administrators if they would like to, particularly our principals, to hear their thoughts about where we are with this.
Dr. Locke, this is Mr. Cabral. But as you know, you've been on the committee as long as I've been an administrator in this town. But this is a situation that's been brewing for 10 years. It's to the point now where the cuts have got to be made because the school department was not funded properly, and we've been using reserve money to try to keep people. There's no more reserve money to keep people. So we have a lot of positions that we're cutting that's going to affect the services for our kids. Not only safety, also educationally. And we're in even a worse situation for next year. So I don't think there's any right answer to this, as long as the town doesn't fund the school department the way it should have been funding for the last 10 years.
Okay, thank you. Any other of our principals? Okay, are there any questions or comments from the public, Mrs. Delcourt?
Not at this time, Dr. Larkin.
Okay, if there's no other discussion from this committee, I'm going to ask for a vote. Mrs. Black?
Yes.
Mrs. Pavo?
Yes.
Mrs. Farnworth?
No.
And I vote no. The motion fails, and I do so with deep regret. So we were on the FY21 budget, and the floor was open to Mrs. Black when she made her motion. Mrs. Black, anything else?
No, just that they'll be sending all the information out when they get it right, the budget and how it ends up and everything, right? And,
yeah.
And we all can say again how I don't know how anybody else feels, but as Mr. Cabral said, being cut like that every year, and now we've been saying we'll start to go backwards, but I know that I'll be there next year. Don't worry, I won't be on the committee, but I'm not going anywhere. So I'll be there to fight for you people anytime you need me. Thank you.
We're not going to let you go anywhere. And yes, I think we all know how the budget ends up, if that's the only thing we do know, actually. All right, Mrs. Pavo.
I have nothing. Why are you asking me that?
Because we were in the process of going through and allowing people to ask questions about the FY21 budget in general. And then we
Nothing. We've been over it several times.
okay, we have, but we had taken up the matter of Mrs. Black's motion. All right, so I think I just lost a screen. All right. So we are moving on to new business, which is 5A, district goals.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to bring up a PowerPoint to review with you first draft of the district goals and explain to you the things that we've targeted to work on to improve the district and improve the learning outcomes for our students. Okay, so we've got a mission here to educate all our students to serve to high levels through high quality instruction. That's always our goal. We know if we can provide high quality instruction that we can achieve high graduation rates, high college acceptance rates, and we can really serve our students exceptionally well. And, you know, our vision is always to be a leader in Rhode Island, to have a premier educational institution that will produce pride. We're very innovative in our work here and getting our students ready for that day when they cross that stage and making sure that they're well prepared. So the key to our district goals, though, and this is the thing that has me excited for this year, because I think we're now going into my third year as superintendent, I think we're moving on a path where we really can align the district. And that's what good school systems do, where you create district goals that can be transcended then to our school improvement plans. And I'll mention that our principals, we will be in front of the school committee on October 13th, which I think is our next meeting, to present their school improvement plans. So they rely upon the district goals to begin planning their school improvement plans. And the step we're taking this year, and you'll see it come out as I speak to the goals now, is connecting our teacher goals to the school improvement plan and to the district goals. And when you can do that, when you can align the district, you can make good decisions, strategic decisions around budgeting, professional development, hiring, and other core actions. So we're getting there, and I think we're going to make a big step this year. So the first goal, well, we've been talking about this for a long time, but it certainly is the essence of our work this year, is to make sure that the district is positioned to execute in a fluid model, hybrid, full in-person, and distance learning. And as you're seeing now, we're in hybrid and distance learning. We're fluctuating. We're working toward full. Who knows what's going to happen for the remainder of the school year? We may have to at some point move back out of a system that we're in, and to make sure that our staff and our students are prepared to do that is critical to our success. So again, you see some of the elements there that I think are critical to the success of this goal, and certainly one that we continue to work on. It's the first thing on our agenda for every administrative council meeting. We continue to analyze all of our metrics, all of our data, so that that we can offer a great educational system for our students. And the second goal is the one here now where we're talking about really aligning the system. And this has to do with our professional development that we're offering to our staff this year. So this year, all of our K-4 teachers are involved, and I'll put in parentheses a course around using technology to advance student achievement. It's the same course that our 5 through 12 teachers took last year. And so we're getting now a K-12 system that's been trained to use technology, because we know it's a key indicator and a key factor in improving student learning, to be able to use it in their classroom. This year, our 5 through 12 teachers are in a course on teaching strategies to improve student achievement. And this is all the art of teaching, the skills about working with diverse learners, about delivering content in a way that students can master that content. It's an amazing class. We're fortunate to bring it here to Tiverton. And as you heard me say, the 5 through 12 teachers had the technology training last year. And then next year in 21-22, we'll reverse that and bring the teaching course, the teaching strategy course, into those teachers. So over 3 years, we will have trained the entire staff on using technology technology and teaching strategies to, again, the key indicator is to improve student achievement. And we hope and we expect to see these courses play out in the rising of our test scores, the rising of our graduation rate, and the rising of our college acceptance rate. So again, you see this as a district goal. You're going to see it as a more specific school improvement plan goal, and then it'll be a very specific goal for the teachers who are implementing these things in their classrooms. So again, this is a great way to align the district. And the third goal, well, we just basically covered this one, and there probably cannot be a more important goal for the Tiverton Public Schools this year. We've talked about the FY21 budget. You have the list of staff members who've been reduced to balance that budget. This has to be the realization that we're using approximately $900,000 in one-time money, even to balance FY21. And so the FY22 budget has to provide the financial resources to maintain at least the current staffing levels. It would be great to bring back some of those 24 teachers, but there cannot be any further cuts. It just, we will not be able to open our doors and operate. So I know that's a thought that all of us share, and it's going to be critical for us as we move into the budget season to communicate that to the community, to the budget committee, to all the town officers, so that we can work in concert with everyone with the deep understanding of the support, the financial support the school system needs for us to be successful. Goal 4, this is another one where we get to align the district, and we've been talking about writing and making sure we raise the amount of writing in all of our classrooms. We know that writing is a gateway skill for students to be successful after graduation. We know that writing is a way to develop mastery and core concepts and skills, and we know that more students write, basically the smarter they become. So we're working on having common writing prompts in every course and every grade level in the district. We are expecting and challenging our teachers to work together to execute these prompts at approximately the same time, so they can look at the data and make good decisions about pedagogy, methodology, teaching strategies, technology, materials that they're using, so we can have these deep conversations about how to improve the learning outcomes for all of our students. And we know writing is a key skill there. And then the last goal is a carryover from last year. We started to talk about bullying prevention and intervention and making sure that we have a very detailed plan to do that. It was a goal last year. We had just begun the research on that, and we were about to formulate some committees right in March when COVID hit. So we're going to transfer this one over this year and really strive to get the work done this year. So those are 5 very strong, specific goals for the district that I really feel can propel, again, what we're all after, which is student achievement. And again, if we can all work in concert collegially and collaboratively together and align the district in a way that the district goals become the school improvement plan goals, that become the teacher goals, the system will work exceptionally well. So I'm going to present these to you tonight as a draft. Certainly we'll answer any questions, refine them as you see fit, and then know that, again, I'll reiterate that the principals will be in it on the 13th to present their school improvement plans that need your approval. And you're going to see some strong alignment to the district goals in their plans.
Thank you, Peter. You don't need a vote on this tonight. This is a draft, correct?
Right. It's first time you've seen it, so I wouldn't expect you to.
Okay. Looks like Mrs. Palish has joined us. Welcome, Deb. All right. I'm going to open the floor to questions. Mrs. Pavo?
I have no questions.
Okay. Mrs. Block?
Yes, when I was just reading over the Rhode Island diploma system and graduation requirements, and I was going over the pathway endorsements that students are eligible for in 21, this graduating year. And I wondered if any of those goals were going to encompass this, or will we look at this in another way? But we do have to address this. You know, it has the arts pathway and the business and humanities and all.
Yeah, so obviously,
Excuse me, what? I'm sorry, what?
I'm sorry, Sally, I think you cut out for a second there and I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering if these aren't addressed in the goals, will they be addressed somewhere else? Because we have to get going on these and make sure they're in place for our students.
Yeah, absolutely. So not everything we do is in our goals, you know that. I mean, we put something
Yeah.
out there public and there's a way for you to evaluate the superintendent, but there's so much work that we do beyond that. And I know that Chris is working deeply on this and it actually may be in his school improvement plan. I haven't seen his first draft of that yet, but certainly I can make sure he's prepared to speak about it on the 13th.
Okay, or another time, just as long as we make sure we're looking into that, because this is the first year we're eligible for it. And we worked hard on that as a district and a state to put that all together.
Yeah.
Okay. Mrs. Farnworth?
Dr. Secchiodi, on goal number 3, trying to understand how that fits into a district goal, how you would make a plan for that from, to me, that's a town goal.
Yeah, well, it becomes certainly, you know, the work that Ms. Roderick and I do. I mean, as you know, we'll work in concert with the school committee to create that first iteration of the budget and the budget book that we give to everyone. And I think that document has to be more than compelling this year. I think we've got to come out right out of the gate and make sure people understand the financial needs of the district, how it connects to education. I think our presentations have to be sharp, crisp, and poignant, and make some strong points there for people to understand. I think we need to, again, request maybe as many meetings as possible with people in the town, you know, to get out there to our PTOs and everyone else to make sure they have all the information. So you're right. In the end, it becomes just the work we do to kind of lead people to make a good decision. But, you know, so in that goal, I see that's what I'm promoting there.
Okay. And all of this gave rise to a question in my mind. Where do we stand this year with standardized testing? Is the high school still administrating the SAT? And is that still the official quote unquote test for graduation? Well, it's not for graduation, but is that the official test of the high schoolers? And what about the standardized testing of all the younger children, considering, you know, the way we've started school this year? Has RIDE given any kind of indication that there'll be changes there this year?
The only indication they've given us is that all systems go. RICAS and SAT will be administered as it has done in the past. So I know our principals are preparing for that and preparing and making sure our teachers understand that and our students are prepared for that. So certainly a long way to go to it before the first administration of one of those tests, but we are planning on being prepared. I can speak specifically in the district. Thank you, Amy Donnelly Roach, for making sure that we do our first screening of our students using the STAR assessment. So that I believe that began today. And that's a great indicator for us to get data on the students and be able to pick up on their reading and mathematical strengths and things that need to be remediated. And I know our principals use that data then to make good decisions on how instruction is adopted at our schools. So, you know, that's one critical step for us to be ready for those tests.
And will the SAT be administered this fall?
That is our understanding.
Yes, it's October and there is a date. We've ordered materials. Even our students who did not have the opportunity to participate last spring as a state assessment are being offered the opportunity to make that up on an in-school SAT date. I believe it's the 14th of October. I can check that for you. But we are all systems go ready to do that, and that will include the opportunity for distance learners. It is the 14th of October for distance learners and all students to participate in that, since they missed the free administration last spring. It's not a state test per se in terms of accountability, but is a free opportunity for that assessment.
Okay, and so I assume then there'll be logistical planning happening for that too.
Yep, we had a webinar about it last week, and they are working hard to roll out all those details at the high school.
Okay, good. All right, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, Deb?
Hello, everyone. Hello. I apologize for my tardiness. I just got off a plane, so you're not going to get to see me. Quick question. I'm excited about goal 2. All the ongoing professional development I think is real important. I kind of had the same question as Diane about the goal 3, but I agree, Peter. I think it's really, really important for us to make that funding our goal and that we talk about it a lot. And it's really important, I think, as Manny just said, this is, it's been a 10-year thing. It's been a real history and a pattern of underfunding, and we really need to, everyone to understand that. Why for goal 4, and this is just a question, would you highlight writing versus math or science?
Because writing is a goal that can unite the district, because in every class and every course we offer, our kids can write. And so that's what we want to do. We want to get all of our entire staff, no matter what you teach, we want to focus on writing. So it's a way to get us united.
Okay, that's it, Dr. Larkin, for now.
Okay, thanks. Any questions from any of our administrators? Caught you off guard, right? All right.
Give them too much work to do. That's their question. Why are you doing this?
Any questions from the public, Ms. Delcourt?
Not at this time, Dr. Larkin.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, Peter. I think we're okay to move on to item 5B, Student Handbook Honor Code Addendum.
Yeah, we hadn't planned on making this a handbook addendum. You have a copy of the honor code in your packet there. As we work with our staff through the summer and the beginning of the school year, one of the staff's concerns were the kids working at home, and the possibility for cheating. Now, I know no Tiverton kids would be part of that, but we wanted to offer a resource for our staff to have available and for parents to be held accountable for being responsible at home and being honest and always exhibiting high integrity when you're involved in your schoolwork at home, and basically not to cheat. So this document was created in that endeavor. We put it out there for our staff. We said, look, if you want to use it, use it. It's there for you to go for it. I've spoken to Principal Craven and Principal Ashley. Our staff has embraced this, so it is something that we probably should move toward a policy. Certainly it's not listed as a policy tonight, but we can certainly do that in the future, but wanted to make you aware of why we're putting this out there now. It certainly ties into the educational system that we're using right now.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to open the floor to questions. Mrs. Farnworth?
Dr. Sanquioni, thank you for putting it on the agenda for us this evening. I think the situation we're in this fall with distance learning and the situation we were in last spring was certainly new. But I've also heard from, every press conference that I got to listen to over the months that, distance learning in some form is not something that's going to end. I think that, even the quote unquote elimination of snow days is an indication that our district will be expected to be able to be fluid and to serve our students probably in different ways throughout the years to come. And with students having the technology at hand, I'm sure that education will be updating itself to lend to the practice of leveraging technology, leveraging distance learning, et cetera. I don't think this is going to be a one-time use document. I think you're going to need something like this on a more permanent basis that really explains what the expectation is of all students with regards to plagiarism and other forms of cheating. Whether we add it as an addendum to our handbooks for the middle school and then the high school could be one way of approaching it, or whether we make it a school committee policy could be another way. I don't know how the committee feels about perhaps exploring that as a possibility. But I do think it was worth something that we should consider having on a more permanent basis, not just for the immediate need.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Buck?
Yes, I agree with Diane. It's going to be ever evolving, and it should be probably be looked at by the policy subcommittee and put into that. That would be good, because we're going to need it, and it's going to change, and it's here to stay. We know that. Thank you. Thank you for looking at that. Thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Pava?
I agree with Diane. I think that needs to be looked at, and I think it's going to be here for a long time. So it's here to stay. I think that her idea is good.
Okay, Mrs. Palish?
I think looking at it, that there is some overlap already with things that we have in the handbook and things that we have in the policy that Mr. Carnevale gave us earlier. So I agree that, you know, it's something that's probably going to stay, but I guess what I would like to do is see where it already overlaps and sort of, because I don't like to have documents that all say the same thing. You know, because then we get into trouble because we have a handbook, then we have a technology guide, and then we have this honor code. So I guess I would like to just review it and see where it's overlapping. And either, to Diane's point, either put it in the handbook or, you know, add it to, you know, what Mr. Carnevale came up with, or a combination of the two. But I would rather not have a third thing. But I agree, it's probably not going to go away.
So I was struck by the same thing, that it probably does overlap with a lot of our internet use, social media policy. I think if you know, we have to put it somewhere. It's got to either be part of this handbook or part of the, or a policy, and therefore we have to vote on it. I thought it was okay as it stood, but we could take it up next time if you want to look at it in the context of the prior policy we adopted. I can go either way.
Or I don't think there's anything wrong with, I mean, you know, it's a procedure that, you know, Dr. Sanquioni has already, you know, given to his administrators, and that's fine. That's within his authority to do. And then perhaps have the school committee policy committee go back and look and see where we can either add it to the handbook or add it to what Mr. Carnevale already did, so that we're not just duplicating effort. But I think it's fine to just have it out there under Dr. Sanquioni's authority to do so now.
So true. Yep. Agreed. So what is your pleasure? You want to take it up as the policy subcommittee? Does anybody have any strong opinions one way or the other?
I think that's probably the best place to have next discussions on it, and, you know, give the administration the opportunities to weigh in on maybe codifying it.
Okay. Anyone else? Sally, Elaine?
No, that's good.
Nope. All set.
And Peter, you're okay proceeding in this way?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the recognition. We can use it now as a procedure, and we can certainly tighten it up moving forward.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other questions from either the public or our administrators?
Not at this time, Dr. Larkin.
All right. Then I am going to ask for a motion to move into executive session under Rhode Island General Law 42465A2, legal advice, litigation, school administrator contracts, teacher termination, legal advice, collective bargaining, NEA, Tiverton.
Second.
So Elaine made the motion and Sally seconded.
Deb
No, I
seconded.
Deb, yeah. Deb.
Deb made the motion?
I
Deb seconded
seconded.
Okay. All right. Somebody keep track of that. Diane?
Yes.
Elaine?
Yes.
Sally?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Okay, and I vote yes. So